Hello, internets. Brian back again with another video. Gonna show some ideas and some techniques on nub removal and sanding. Now I know there are a lot of videos out there about this subject, but I wanted to give my method and my approach to the subject. So maybe you can find some useful information that you might be able to apply to your own kits and your own models in the future. But let's get started. Building this Goaf, MS Goaf, love this guy. And there are a lot of nubs. It's a little bit of an older kit, so you will get some seam lines on the pieces. And here's one that I have already completed. You can see everything looks nice there, but let's start with the basics. As we all know, parts come off of runners. You nip them with your nippers. Then I like to take a flat chisel on a hobby knife and trim off the edge. Usually I press it against the table. I run the nipper or the chisel at a angle when I cut across it, and I push down slightly as though I were like chopping a vegetable. It makes for a little bit cleaner cut. And as you can see, if I can get the phone to focus, there is a little bit of extra nib on there. That way you don't get any marks from cutting too close, any discoloration from breaking of the plastic. So the diagonal slice and the leaving of the little bit of space will stop your colored parts from turning white. Okay, so now that we've got chiseled off, my next thing that I usually go to is file. So that's also pretty common, but I got a bunch of different files. I got a half round, a full round, flat file, and then a diamond file or a triangular file. As you can see, they get pretty loaded up, pretty gunked up. I also use a file brush, which is right here, just a good old Nicholson file brush. They're a couple bucks at the hardware store, but they make all the difference in the world. Keeping your files nice and clean. Next tip after that, or next tool to jump to, is your standing stick. This is a aftermarket. I don't know. I get these in a big bunch, buy them in a big bag by bulk. You get a ton of different sizes. This one happens to have 4 different grades on it. Something like a 60 grit, closer to like around 100 grit or 200 grit. Maybe this is like a 120 and this is like a 200 grit on there. And then from there, I go even farther and I get some of this stuff. Now, this stuff is called micron paper. It's like a higher end polishing paper, and sold by 3M. A bunch of different companies sell it. This particular flavor is micron 9, which is a 1200 grit. And then I'll go into exactly what we use that for at the very end. But to get started, we're just going to approach this piece, filing flat across to remove this nib, and you can see there's a little bit of a seam there. So we get started. And key for me is to keep a good grip on the back end. If you can get them with the little handles on them, they're super nice. If you can't, that's okay. You can wrap some tape around it to give you a little something to hang on to. I got these big hands that don't like to handle little tools. And then, good grip in the palm of your hand, and then brace the back with my finger. That way, because these guys, I mean, they are metal, but they will flex. And if it flexes too much, you're going to get a round piece when you want a flat piece. Okay, so flat file pushing away from you. You can draw these files backwards on plastic, and it won't fold the teeth down like it will on metal, but you won't have as much control over the quality of your filing marks. Okay, so as you can see, we got the nib down, or the nub down quite a bit, but there's this line, the seam line, and the seam line is opposite to the direction that I'm filing, aka the hook is in this direction. The hook is from left to right as opposed to right to left. So I'm going to flip the piece around and file against that line. That way I don't dive down and file this outside edge too much, making the piece round. This will help keep this square face flat. All right, I'm going to do that. A little bit of a rubby. There we go. Nice and flat. And as you can see, oh, there's still a little bit left on there in the reflection. You always use the reflection of light to tell you where you're going. I do that when I'm working on a metal piece, a wood piece, a plastic, anything. A couple more sands down. All right. Looking pretty good there. I have the nub is gone, the entire seam is removed, the pieces remained flat, or as flat as the design is. As you can see, it's slightly curved, so remains fairly flat. And now we'll move to the next. There's a little nub here and a seam. Actually, it's just a little seam line inside that curved bit, right? Oops, sorry, right in there. So we're gonna go for the half round file. This guy gives you a lot of options because you have your nice flat face, and then you have this nice round side as well, but it is a little bit of a more gradual round than the full-on round pencil file. All right, so take this guy. Once again, good grip. Back it with your fingers so the guy doesn't bend on you. And then when I'm pushing on this, because we already know that we need to go against the grain on the seam, as I'm pushing, I'm rotating the file up the piece to follow the curve and allow the full cutting face of the file to work. Now, if you don't do that, if you just run straight lines with this guy, yes, you're using the curved face, but what happens is you get this high point on the top of the file that makes grooves, and it's just, you can correct it. I mean, as you know, everybody makes mistakes, but it's just an unfortunate thing to have to happen to your pieces. Okay, so we're going to do this. And then I'm also should say that I'm not pushing very hard because these files will take, they'll eat through brass and aluminum and work a good deal on steel. But plastic is like warm butter to that. So, okay. Doesn't take much. All right. Okay, so you can see in the reflection that I maintained, and there's where I kind of hit it a little bit hard right there. You can see that's what I was talking about, trying to avoid. So hey, everybody, it happens to us all. Okay, so I'm going to take this file actually, and then use this hard edge with the flat back against this flat surface, utilizing the piece itself to guide where I want the correction to go. So lined in, rotate, and okay, much better, much better. A couple more swipes to get rid of that flat face. Beautiful. Okay, same deal outside on this hard edge too, like seam lines like crazy on this older kit. Still love it though. All right, so we're gonna just chase those guys real fast, changing the direction with the file so that I don't get deep grooves. The teeth on the file will make tiny little striation marks in the surface, and if you switch the direction that you file, if you file this way and then file that way across the piece, you'll actually create a crosshatch, which will eliminate those striation marks and make it easier to sand off the file marks in the end. All right, just gonna kiss this face a little bit. All right, dusty, but good. Moving on to our sanding grits. I don't need to hit this blue because the file did a really good job on the surface and it didn't leave any big gouges that I need to get rid of or anything like that. So we're just going to go to this lighter grit, this 200 or 400 grit. once again, putting my thumb on the back, I always back up everything that I'm using. These are super duper flexible, and you'll often see, or you'll often run out of a quality edge to work on. So getting comfortable with flipping the parts around in your hands and using the sanding sticks in different methods, different directions, will allow you to utilize all of these, they're cheap, but they go fast. So they end up being kind of expensive in the end. So, all right, a little sand. Once again, changing directions, crossing over myself. It's the same thing you do when you're polishing. Because in essence, that's what you're doing here. You're using very, very fine grit. Look at that, beautiful. Look at that. Oh, it's gorgeous. Okay. So flip the piece around. Flip the stick around. Once again, I'm doing the hula dance here with my stick so that it gets a nice and flat across that surface. The last thing we want to do is create any weird ridges in this goofy armor. Goofy armor. All right. Cool. All right. So there we go. Okay. And this part here. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. So now that we've gotten this down and we've got this, we're going to go to our old buddy, super micron paper, 1200 grit. See how flexible this stuff is? It's amazing. It's good for getting in all the little nooks and crannies you can get around all sorts of round edges. And they make it into lots of grits. They start at 80 grit, I think, and then it goes all the way up to the multiple thousands of grits. You can polish glass with this stuff. It's amazing. And it's totally reusable. You can use it until it's basically just gone, and it'll still have cutting power. So I'm just going to take this, my thumb, as my backer again. Use the nail in there to get that guy. And whoop, voila. Shiny. Oh, shiny. Shiny, shiny. That was for you, Foxy. Yeah, another thing that's good for this stuff too, real quick before I end this video. When you have a surface anomaly, one of the swirls from the molding, you can take this stuff and work it across the surface. A little bit of elbow grease or knuckle grease, we'll call it. And yeah, no more separation from the pour. If you want to keep your pieces raw plastic, this is a great way to get rid of those nubs. As you can see, that nub is just barely visible, but this piece is super shiny and super duper flat. All right, guys, I hope that this video was informative to you and help you make some really amazing quality kits. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, follow, hit the dingy bell button thing, and we'll catch you next time. All right, bye.